All right, well, awesome. Thanks, guys, for showing up. Just quick introductions. I'm Claudio La Sala, mostly a beginner, right? Because some people say, oh, yeah, I've been seeing you at track days a lot of time. You're already a pro. I'm like, no, right? I'm still a beginner, and I plan on being a beginner for a long time. As I've been saying here before, it doesn't take too long for us not to know what it feels like, what we didn't know. How was it when we didn't know about something? And if we get too detached from being a beginner, we are unable to help out the beginners, right? Because if you know way too much, when a beginner comes asking you for help because you are the pro, you're not going to be the best person to help that other fellow because you've been so detached from not knowing about certain things that you don't just take those things for granted. So yet another reason for me to be doing these things so that even as I evolve, I want to make sure that I remember what was it like when I didn't know, so that I can keep helping out other folks who are looking into this sport that we know and love, and make sure that they have a good time. I did do street riding for 25 years before I got on a sport bike, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because I go to the track when I got started with all of the bad habits from street riding, like duck feet and all that, right? Lots of bad habits that still I fight against them. And I document a lot of my progress and my experiences, my learnings on two channels. The YouTube channel is a 3-lap rider name that I use there, and also on Instagram. So my pics, the things that show progress, I post those things up mostly for myself so that I can go back and never forget what was it like when I didn't know, right? What was my body position on my first track day? Oh, look how it is now. Dang, that's pretty good progress. But there's more, right? So I use that as a way for myself to document that. About these meetings, they're not about teaching you how to ride faster. I'm not qualified to do that at all. So I'm not going to be doing any of that here. I'm not going to be here teaching riding techniques because, like I said, I'm a beginner. I'm still learning all that stuff. I'm not here to do what RideSmart does best. So if you want to ride techniques and you want to go faster and stuff, you go do track days. You have somebody like Juan who's been doing this for many years, who's an instructor, qualified to actually tell you where you're screwing up, where you can get better, right? So that's not the main point of these meetings. The point of these meetings is, how do you get ready for track days? How do you prepare? What kind of stuff do you pack for your track day? How do you get your mind with your goals as to what you're going to be working on when you're at the track? That kind of stuff is what I would like to talk about here. Learning tips, right? How do you better learn when you're at the track? And what do you do when you're not at the track? Hence, beyond the track. What can you do beyond being at the track and still improve as a rider? Is that even possible? I believe it is. That's how I've been making improvements on my own pace. And of course, enhancing your track day experience, because when you're out there riding, everything goes by so fast, right? Because we're going fast at the track. As we come out of the track, go to classroom, everything is like, shh, everything's going fast. We don't take the time to actually internalize what the instructors give as feedback to us, what we are observing from other things, because maybe we're not even observing. We're just so, we need to take the time to actually take that back home, do a debrief, and then plan out the next track days. So those are the things that I want to cover in these meetings. I have a little bit of an agenda, but I have to say that I had to change the agenda just because last time here, I've tried to cover as many things I remembered based on my very first track day, everything I did to prepare for that. That was the main focus on my first meeting. And I think I succeeded to a certain level, except that when we got to the very end, we had already wrapped up things. I heard somebody ask a question. The question was, what if it rains? I was like, crap, I didn't talk about that, because that was not an experience that I had on my very first track day. I'll talk about when I did have that experience, but it was not something I had encountered on my very first one. And then, of course, what happened at the first track day of the year this month? What happened? It rained. right? It's like, God, the one thing I didn't mention actually, but everything I think was good. Last month, we did go over an entire intro to track days. What are they for? How do they work? How do they work with RideSmart? Because again, that's been my experience. I don't know about the other track days, open track days, those things, because I haven't done those. I'm not going to talk about them. I'm going to talk about the experiences that I've had. If you missed last month's meeting, head over to my YouTube channel. I've created a playlist, one for Beyond the Track. That's what I'm going to be posting these videos. So on that one, there is introduction to track days, the tips for first timers, and we focus most of the meeting on first time riders, track days, and so check it out there. And I'll continue, recording these and posting them up so that people can catch up and we don't go over the same things, every time. As far as tips for first timers, again, in January we covered preparation, do's and don'ts, what to focus on, how to have a great time when you're going out there for the very first time, right? Because when you go out there the first time, there are no plans. You're not gonna be out there saying, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna work on my counter steering, on my corner speed and blah blah." You're not gonna be doing any of that. You're gonna just be riding around to see how that feels, right? But even with all the stuff that we've covered, later, when we were done last month, I was like, okay, there's a lot more that I didn't say, and I realized that because I remembered later, or when Bill and I were talking at the track, or other guys who came here that were actually there, they asked me some things that I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. I actually had that for my first track day. So let me add, and go back here. So the way I'm going to be doing these things is to always go back to how is it on my very first one for the first timers that are going to be here with us. And then I'll move on to the, okay, once you've done a couple of those, here are other things that have been working for me. They may as well work for you. You may want to try it out and then later tell me how it went. So I'm going to be covering a little more tips for first timers and then move on for the non-first timers material. And so, but first let's talk about the, what if it rains? Because it's one of those, it happens. So like Bill said, I had a lot of previous experience riding on the rain. I mean, I come originally from Brazil, huge city, which is São Paulo, 20 million people. It's crazy, right? And I had been riding like under really heavy rain, like even going over cobblestone with like, I don't know, 5-10 inches of water, when it was flooded. And I was riding my bike just fine, right? So I thought, how hard could it be riding on the track? Well, it's not the same thing. Riding on the wet on the street and on the track, I guess it depends on the track. My experience so far has been at MSRH. It's a whole different beast. The bike feels a whole lot different. Anyways, let me talk about a little story between my very first track day number 1, and track day number 2. So I come out of track day number 1, I'm like, I love this thing. I have to do more of this. When is the next one? I'm going to sign up for the next one. Around that time, the next one was going to be Coda. And I thought, oh, dude, that's some real business right there. I'm not sure I'm qualified to ride at Coda, right? I just got started on this. In my head, the way I had it was I will only go to Coda when I'm in level 3, because then I'm going to be, really a master of the skill. I'm going to actually be able to enjoy such a track. That's how I had it in my mind, right? And then later I changed my mind. I got that all wrong, thinking that way. But anyways, so the next one would be Coda. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. What's the next one after that? It would be Crescent in April. So I'm like, oh, man, I'm going to have to wait like a month and a half until the next one. Darn it, right? But okay, I'll be waiting, and then of course the week of the event comes by, and then you check on the weather, right? Sunny, oh crap, bastard, right? That's the last thing you want to see on the day that you are going to have your track day, your second track day. It's like, man, I've spent like the whole 45 days prepping a whole lot, because last month I mentioned that one thing I got wrong for my first one was that I didn't memorize the track layout. I didn't watch enough videos to know where I'm going right, where I'm going left at MSRH. So when I was there, I was like, oh, crap, I need a GPS to go around this track. I sucked. So I wrote that down and said, next time around, I want to do better. So for what would be my second one, I did my homework. I've watched several videos from other riders, got the track map, saw it on the map, saw it on the guys' cameras, and studied the whole thing. So I had the track in my head. It's not the same thing as riding the actual track. You don't feel the elevation changes, the camber changes and all that, but still you get comfortable with like the markers, the references that you have on the track and things like that, the little houses that you have on the back straight and all that. So I did all of that. I over-prepared. And then I get to the week and it's like, oh, man, right? So as part of the preparation, since it's, for a 4-hour drive for me, I thought, well, an option is to camp out at the track. So I said, okay, I've never camped in my life. So that was another thing I had to learn. So I do a lot of research, right? What should I buy? What should I get to be able to camp at the track? So I sent Randy a bunch of emails. Okay, what do I do for this? What do I do for that? The lamest things that you can think, I was asking because I don't know and I don't know what I don't know, right? So I did a lot of research on that, got everything I needed, the tents, everything you need for camping and all that. Got all prepared, got my wife on board with it because she, is my biggest supporter on this thing. So we had everything nailed to the T, right? We go there, we get there, and it was a thunderstorm. It was like, oh my goodness. I go to the track to check it out. It's like, okay, are we going to be able to camp out here? Look at the sky. It's a, right? Nobody, is going to be turning off that light anytime soon. So I'm like, okay, I don't feel safe camping out there. There was one guy who had set his tent there. The next day it was like flat on the ground. And I'm like, okay. Fortunately, there's a hotel like right across the street, so that's where we stayed. We get back on track next day, early in the morning. It was still dark. And then we were sitting there. We cannot see the track, right? But we were facing the track, but we can see it. And then we see this lightning bolt. And then immediately after, what do we see? We see a little fire there. It's like, wow, far away. We saw that. It was like beautiful. Right? And it's fire. Something caught on fire. And I'm there watching that thinking, I don't think this track day is going to be safe at all.
So let me mention one thing about rain.
Sure.
The tracks that we go to are not owned by us. So if it rains, obviously, we love to cancel the event. The problem is the track owners are there to make money. Yeah. So we can only cancel the event if they allow us to, and they basically refund everybody's money. See what I'm saying? So for people to say, man, it's gonna rain, I paid for it, I'm just not gonna show up. And then next time I see Dave, I'll say, oh, I was sick, I couldn't make it, or it was raining, and there's no way. Can you give me credit for another day? Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. Because the track people are basically telling Dave, look, rain or shine, unless it's some type of typhoon coming through, that even it won't even be safe for cars, we're gonna keep the track open. So it's really not Dave's decision, it's the track keeps it open. So, I mean, yes, I would love to not ride during the rain. But, I mean, there's advantages. You learn how to be a smooth rider and stuff like that.
Right. So that was my main motivation, right? Because I did ask, it was probably Randy at the time about the rain policies and all that. Yeah. And then I completely understood the idea and said, okay, it's a 4-hour drive. I'll take it because, again, it is good practice. It is good practice no matter what. So I do go out there, right? And then it is like this during the day, right? And then I can finally see the track. And it's beautiful because now I'm like, haha, I know it's little band, big band, right? Because the things that I didn't know the first time around, I was actually, okay, I see the track map. I know you, even though I haven't been there, I know you. It was Yes, victory. Right there, I had a small win for the day, which I knew maybe the day wouldn't turn out so well, but I thought there is a win in there. Eventually, when it was around the time for, it was not even the time for the normal riders meeting. Dave just called us and said the track owners decided it's not safe to ride out there. It was not even like raining that heavy, but man, it was a thunderstorm. Like all the time, the sky would be like, I don't want to be out there if I have the option, right? So then, of course, it comes that, all right, now you have to pack everything, load your bike up on your car, trailer, or whatever, and then take that long 4 hour drive back home. Flustered, right? It's like, crap, so much preparation. I've been waiting, a month and a half for this. But I try to keep that attitude in my mind to think, have I learned anything about this trip? And I sure did. Because, we had 4 hours, and on the way back, it was raining pretty hard, right? It was pretty heavy, right? But I'm talking with my wife saying, because she's like, she feels for me. She's like, oh man, you've been waiting for this for a month and a half, and then something like that happens, it's gonna be okay. And I'm like, I could be really pissed off at this time, but I'm gonna look at the bright side. I did learn about the track. I learned techniques to learn a new track, right? Because I had to do all that preparation, which I've been using ever since for every new track that I go to, or even the ones I've been to. I follow the same techniques to memorize the track, get familiar with some of the reference points that are on the track and stuff like that. I've learned about all the stuff that I needed for camping. I've learned that my bike carrier that I bought, after my first track day, that it actually can carry my bike for 4 hours like that. Because the first time I drove around the neighborhood with my bike on the back with that thing, I was like, this thing's not gonna make it. You look on the mirror and you see your bike like that, and I'm like, oh my god, this is not gonna end well. And actually, no. So I've learned a whole bunch of stuff from this experience. So it was not a waste at all. So that was my first experience with rain. So once that was over, I had my first experience on wet at MSRH in June. First couple of sessions, it was dry, all good. And then at one of the sessions, we were sitting there just waiting to be allowed onto the track, and then it starts raining. All right, let's deal with this, right? So you go out, first thing you notice is that people will drag to a crawl around the track. Like everybody's gonna go extremely slow, like even slower than we ride in the paddock area, for instance. At least that was my experience in level 1 that day, right? Everybody's gonna go really, really slow. Because you don't know, the funny thing about riding on the track is that even though here it's just starting to rain, maybe on the other side of the track, it has already been raining heavy, which happened to me this day, where it's like, okay, it's completely wet here, but over there it's still completely dry. So you want to go really slow because you don't know the condition of the track, right? So you go like around the keyhole, this part of the track, you go really slow, right? Like everybody almost stopped, almost like, okay, let me stop and park right here, right? Because nobody felt safe. That was my thing. It's like, okay, it's my first time at the track, feeling it wet, and it's very different than feeling, wet on the street like that. So I said, okay, I'll just go, following the other guys, right? Keep noticing how slow everybody goes. It took us probably like 5 minutes to drive around the track, where at my current pace, I go around like 2 minutes and 9 seconds or something like that. It took us like 5 minutes because look at the back straight, our speed. It's like, don't move, don't breathe, because you really feel, if you've never ridden that condition, it's like the bike is loose. To me, it was like it was so different from my previous experience, riding on the rain on the street. That was like, holy crap. And then I'm following this guy, right, just going slow, kind of like seeing, okay, what does it do to him? So that I don't fall. If he makes a mistake, I want to see what mistake he made. So like this guy, pay attention how he's going to like, saw that? it was very subtle, but it's like, oh crap. Yeah, thank you. Right? So right there. Oh, thank you. Right? So he's going really slow, and still he's like, and then I go like wide because I said, okay, maybe he hit the brakes. I'm not gonna even touch the brake. Let me go wide. I'm going slow enough, and then go around the thing, right? So that was kind of a an interesting feeling. And then still we had that session, and then after that we had like 2 or 3 sessions under the rain, and I was still like, okay, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna feel the track, and just go smooth, practice smooth on brakes, smooth on the throttle, I have that in my mind. That's what I'm gonna be practicing. Later in the afternoon, the sun came out, not enough to dry the pad area, but since the bikes were going to the track, it was drying out, right? So we go out to the track, and it looks a lot better, right? But then you start, oh, right there. That's one thing I wanted to show. Did you see me shaking there? That was scary, right? Because I'm going, like seeing where the puddles are, right? And everything is still feeling, I mean, it looks sort of dry. But then like here, I'm going really slow. Look at my pace. Then I want to go left. Check this out. It's a little, I'm like, I'm barely on the throttle. I'm not touching on the brakes. I'm just like almost a straight line, and still the bike goes like this. Like, oh crap, But anyways, kept on going that session. Of course, lots of bikes went down. Right? If we keep going here, there's gonna be one bike down, like 2 turns later on the bus stop right there. Same kind of thing, right? The guy of that, the rider of that bike, he was with me on the paddock, and I said, "What happened?" He said, "I have no idea, but I lost, the back end, the rear." And I said, "Did you hit the brake?" No, I was just going really slow and just lost it, right, like that. But anyways, still did take the practice. That was good. Waited until like the very last session of the day. I actually got the track like 95% dry, which was an interesting exercise because then I started like paying attention to the grip, how much grip I had with that condition. But at the same time, I had to change the line because in some places the puddle was right where the line is, like coming out of the carousel before Jawbone there. It was like right where you have to go to make that switch, that transition from right to left. Right, so practicing different lines around the track, that was a good exercise, right? So it was a good thing to practice. So that was pretty cool. Uh, and then after that, we had the makeup day for Crescent finally in October. So I finally went back to that track when the previous track day had been canceled. So I said, okay, that's pretty cool. I know the terms, I know the names, I know that there's the rattlesnake that everybody talks about, how that thing is tricky to get it right. If you mess up like right here, you go messed up all the way to here and everything. So I'm finally gonna ride the rattlesnake, and I almost rode the rattlesnake. Right? I mean, almost. You see where my camera is? I almost hit the thing on the head. And I had to like shake that thing because it gets on you, and then the next lap around it was not there anymore. But as I did that one lap, the only thing I could think of was, man, I was camping out at that track the previous night and was woken up by coyotes in the middle of the night, right? And then I'm riding the track. Last session of the day, I run into that. I'm like, oh crap! That was the only. It totally threw me off that lap. That was the only thing I could think of. It's like, that's another thing I have to put into consideration. Watch out for rattlesnakes on a track. Like, oh man, I don't know. Are they slippery? What happens if you're leaned over and you hit that thing? What happens? Oh well, so that was that. And then of course, I mean, speaking of the rain thing, we had rain at MSRH in February. That was my third experience with rain. Now there was a lot that could go wrong for me that day, right? Because I prepared everything like I do beforehand. I have everything under control. And then there's a bunch of little things that's like getting in my way as I'm getting ready in the morning, right? Just things that were not right, that could get on my nerves. I write them down so that next time they don't get to me. I get to the track, it's dry, and then of course, round robin, it starts raining lightly. I'm like, crud. But all good. But the things that could go wrong for me there is it was really cold. I hadn't ridden at the track when it was that cold, so I knew the grip was not going to be there. Like, okay, it's a new experience. That's cool. But on top of that, I had a fresh new set of tires. So I'm like, okay, what is that gonna do? It's a different set of tires than I had before. So how's that gonna work? But still, I went to the track with a plan. I, you know, drew on my notebook the things that I wanted to work on, the corners, the things that I wanted to focus on. And I had like 3 dry sessions. On those dry sessions, I looked at my plan, I executed the plan, and I go, check, check, check. When it started raining at the end of my third free session, I was like, you know what? I could use the training riding in the rain, but I didn't come with that mindset. I wanted to work on these things, and I did work on those things. I did make improvements, so I'm good. I said I'm just calling a day. I'm gonna just hang around, chat with Bill, the other guys that were there for the first time, see if they need anything, if there's anything that I can help them with. I'm cool. I just felt like I've learned a lot. I actually, as I come out of the track and I do my debrief during the day, I start listing the things that I've learned. And out of that track day, I've learned a bunch of stuff. Oh, body position, things like that. Not necessarily. I did work on those things. But beyond that, I learned things that impact my preparation for the track day. So next time around, I go back to that list. Oh, yeah, this thing here. You're not going to get me again this time around, right? I know about you now. I'm going to add that one thing that I forgot to my checklist. That's it, right? So there's still a lot of pros, even though it's like, oh man, yeah, it rained, it sucked. No, it didn't, right? I got pretty much a lot out of what I wanted to do, and still managed to shave off like 1 second of my personal best lap there. Even though it was cold, new tires, started to rain, I look at the little app that I use to track times, like, oh, I've been even faster than my last time that I was here. That's pretty good, right? I was not even counting on that because I was not looking for like going faster. I was just working on certain things of my riding. So that was pretty good. A couple tips for first timers that I didn't mention the first time, but then at the track, Bill and some other guys asked me, tank grip pads, the ladders, what goes underneath. So let's talk about that. These guys here, I did have them for my first track day. If you don't, you probably should. It helps a lot, as I came to realize. For me, for 2 things. One, 2-up riding with my wife, right? If you have a passenger, when you have to stop and like riding, street riding and stuff, you always have the passenger like going on you like this. And when I didn't have that, I felt like I was putting a lot of strain on my wrists riding with my wife on the back. It was killing me. I was riding like for an hour and I said, okay, I can't do this because it's really hurting my wrist. Well, with this, just lock it. It's all good. You have your arms, ready to rock. At the track, huge benefit, right? As you're leaning into a corner, you can lock your legs there so that it doesn't slide. When you're working on starting to actually braking harder, you lock it there. As you brake, you're not going to get pushed onto the tank, right? Where when I was just street riding, when I first got the bike, it was like, okay, I'm braking and I'm sliding on the tank. I have no point to support me on the bike. With this, yeah, your hands are, your arms are loose. You can easily hit on the brakes without putting too much input on the handlebars, right? You can just pull on the brakes. Makes it a lot more stable. A question that I got asked at the track was, oh, what about ladders? I know that first timers with RideSmart, you get the ladders, rental for free and all that. But then what about afterwards? Well, my experience was I knew it was gonna be like at least riding like back roads with my wife and stuff like that because we like that. So I thought, I'm gonna just get me my own leathers because I know I'm gonna be using them. And then I got this one on sale at Cycle Gear for like 320, 330. I was like, it's not probably the best. For sure, it's not the best on the market, but still, it's mine. I'm going to be using quite a bit. And when I mentioned that to another rider, he was like, really? Because the ones I found, they're like 700. I was like, yeah, but you don't need those yet, right? Get something cheaper. Same thing with boots, same thing with gloves. I bought all the built stuff, not too expensive, not the best, but not too expensive and safe enough for somebody who's starting, right? So that's what I did. Uh, and then other things that I also had for my first track day, back protector. Because when I didn't have it, just riding around, I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel like safe. Once I put that thing on, it's like an insert that you put in your suit. Immediately, I already felt safer, right? It just made me feel like, okay, you can go, push a little harder because at least you have some level of protection on your back, right? So that, and then yeah, it does a lot to your mind as well.
RideSmart doesn't require that, but we highly recommend it. Sure.
Yeah, this is.
Because a lot of the suits they do have the inserts in there, but it's not as good as those.
Oh yeah, the ones that come, they're like.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
Because we cater to our street riders and we can't force street riders to, they would be turned off by going through the track. Try to make it as lenient as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But highly recommend.
Yeah, and this kind of suggestion I got from going on group rides with a group that I found out on Moto Houston. Right, I joined one of the group rides and then chatting with the other guys. One of the guys said, "Man, if you're thinking about doing more of this, get a back protector." Because before that, I hadn't even heard of those things, right? So I went after that and said, okay, this seems, I feel safe with that one. And that's the one I used until last year. And then until December. For February, earlier this month, I got a different one, the Force Field. It's called Force Field, which is the one that it straps on you. And the only reason why I got that is because it has that little extension that comes down here, right? And it fits better for me because I've read like on the reviews where, as you're in the riding position, it just, once you get it in the right adjustment, you don't even feel like it's there. You're riding, you are protected, but it's not like bugging you, right? So I tried that. Before that, I did try that, the vest, the Alpine Stars, I think. That one, it feels good, but I didn't feel as safe for track riding. Just the back protection, it didn't seem like sturdy enough, like compared to this one that I was used to. That was just like, when I put it on, it's like, I don't think I trust this thing. And then doing some more research, the force field looked good. I saw some people at the track using it and say, okay, let me give it a shot, and I really like it. It's more expensive, right? So if you're just starting and you don't want to put a lot of money into that, maybe it's not necessary. But once you start going faster, you definitely want to get safer as well, right? But at least one. And this one, I paid like $80, 75, something like that. Right? Not too bad, and it's well worth the protection. No question about that. Question that Bill asked me, what's the best thing to have under the ladders? Again, a suggestion that I got from one of these group rides. One of the guys said, he saw me with just a regular t-shirt under my leathers. He said, no, dude, you have to get something like this. It's cheap also to get at Cycle Gear or whatever store of your choice. This one is called Heat Out, right? Which also keeps you, cooler. Now, I started with this one, and then I regret it. And my wife always had a crack seeing me getting on my suit with this thing, right? Because once you start sweating, getting in and out of your suit, you look ridiculous, right? You're like that, like a headless chicken, right? Trying to get on that thing. It's pretty bad. And at the track, I've seen people like messing up with their muscles just because they're so like bent over like that. It's crazy. So just spend an extra buck and get this, right? The long sleeve, because then you slide in and out of your leather, right? It's man, it's perfect. And you don't realize that until you're really sweat coming out of like maybe your third session at the track and you're really sweat. And then there's no way in hell to get that leather out. And you're like melting inside those leathers. It's like, how do I get out of this thing? Right? Well, with this, you just slide out. You don't even need help to slide out of that thing. Right? And of course, get the bottom part as well. When I started doing that, it also made my preparation for track day better because as I get ready in the morning, I put on those things, some shorts, t-shirt, whatever, get to the track, I'm pretty much ready. I do all my registration, track drive, riders meeting. Time to go to the track, I just have to slide into my leathers.
How much are those now?
These things like $9, $8.
Expensive.
Right now, yes, because we are just coming out of winter. So that's another thing. If you look for it like in 2 months from now, it's going to be like 25, $30. So yeah, get it now. I'm going to get another set because of that. All right. So since we just finished the tips for first timers, Bill, would you like to share a couple of words how your first track day went? Bill was the winner, the lucky winner of the free track day on our first meeting here. Yeah. You were there. How did it go?
It went well. I think your suggestions about the checklist, and of course RideSmart provided a very good checklist, so I found that I didn't lack for anything. Everything that I needed I took, and so that was very positive. My goals were to just ride conservatively, not fall down or anything, and that worked out. I was wanting to step up my pace incrementally. And I was doing that until it started to rain, and then that plan changed. Same thing about the speed through the turns, a little greater lean angle. And I was getting there, although starting at a very conservative point. So I was improving, and then the rain kind of changed the whole game plan. But the things that I really enjoyed the most was, on the street, you ride in a straight, and then you go into a turn, and then back straight again, and then eventually you get in another turn. I really liked going through the linked turns where you're, immediately flipping back and forth between the turns.
Nice.
And that was really great. That track day, believe it or not, in my advanced age, was the first time I'd ever put on a set of leathers.
There you go.
And so that was interesting.
Did you get the rental leathers that they let?
Yeah,
Did
they
you
were
get the green rhino ones or no?
Yeah, the beautiful green and white.
Did you?
Yeah. They were so color coordinated with my red bike.
That's the RideSmart initiation.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
By the way, yeah. You're a newbie. We always ask that first. Oh, you're a newbie? Okay, green ones.
I didn't know
They
that.
put a blue one my first time.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Damn it, they screwed up on that one.
Blue and gray was mine.
Just
And,
always next time.
I have mine though. I'm safe.
All right.
And something about, like, for example, this is probably make everybody wince, but I've been riding on the street with some real good, believe it or not, steel-toed work boots that have very good padding around the ankles, and the tops are stiff. And I said, well, what would it be like for me to use those? Because I'm used to them, they're comfortable and all that. They said, well, the trouble is they're slip-ons and they're not laced up. Have you ever thought about if you fall and start tumbling, you could fling the boots completely off, and now you got bare feet sliding across on the ground. Thought, I never thought of that, but stuff like that is what you learn. And so I'm going to change my whole approach on what I ride on the street now, and then of course have boots for the track as well. But
Nice.
it was just a very good learning experience. The instructors were wonderful. I thank RideSmart for opening the door for me on this. They were very good at providing feedback, and that was good. They'd ride behind you and then tell you what you were doing right or wrong. And so then finally, Heart Photography, you know, did the videos, and I got back and looked at some of those, and I thought, I really thought I was leaning the bike over a lot further, but found out that I wasn't doing anything. But anyway, that's the way it starts out. The whole experience was great. Yeah, I wish it hadn't rained that afternoon, but so what? You know, it was very good. Everything went well. There was a number of people that fell down that day, and I guess maybe I was lucky because I had pretty much street tires, and I guess they said that when it's cold and with wet, with race tires, it's probably worse than having
Oh
just
yeah,
a
you
plain
don't go out.
street tire.
Anybody who was on race tires that day, they didn't go out on the track because what I heard, I haven't ridden with race tires, but one of the instructors, Dino, he said, no, there's a lot of people who wouldn't be able to make it out of the paddock
All right.
because it's like no grip whatsoever.
And one other thing, you know, I'd heard people talk about tire pressure.
Yes.
And yet, on my bike on the street, I've been running the darn manufacturer's specs, like which was 36 in the front, 42 in the rear. And so on that track day, I lowered it down to about 32 front and rear.
Good.
You know, it's ballpark, I guess.
Yeah.
And it felt good. Now, last weekend, I did a group ride and put the same pressure as compared to what I had been running, the higher pressure. It made a huge difference. And I felt confident, and we rode at a pretty good pace. And compared to how it was before, it just made a world of difference. So, you know, you pick up a little bit here, a little bit there, and
Very good.
it was a learning experience.
It speaks to that knowledge that some people say, oh, I don't want to do track days because I don't want to be a racer. Well, it's not about that, right? Maybe you don't, if you do want to be a racer, yeah, great, but maybe you just want to get better at riding so that we're out on the street, you're a master of your domain, right?
Exactly.
You know what you're doing it because you practice in a place where it's safe to do so. Excellent.
And I watched a lot of videos of MSRH before I went down there. I had been down there before. I went to Coda back in November and just hung out. I didn't do the track day, but just
Okay.
listened to the presentations and hung out and, you know, walked around a little bit. And then when I got to that track, I thought, oh my God, it's dwarfed compared to what Coda is. It was interesting.
Yeah, Coda is something else.
So are you going to leave the pressure on their tire the way it is now, or is it going to bring it back to manufacturer?
Oh, I guess if I'm going to do some just, you know, commuting rides, I'll probably put it on back up just to increase tire life.
Yeah.
But for any kind of performance riding,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it made so much difference
Yeah, it's
that,
huge.
Yeah.
shoot, I was, no wonder I was a little nervous at
So
times.
I was going to say, if you leave it like really low, like on the track, you will wear a lot more.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
Good deal. All right, so you're going to be going back
You bet.
more?
Sure am.
Sweet. Excellent. All right, cool. So next, has everybody been on the track? I know you have, Ricardo, you haven't. So are you planning on?
Yeah,
Doing
I
it?
was hoping for the March one, but I didn't register in time.
Okay.
So the level one was on. There.
So make sure that you watch the video from our meeting last month. It's like an hour long, but it goes over a whole bunch of stuff. Yes, on my YouTube channel. Check it out because it goes over like everything regarding your first time, right? So check it out.
Do you mind if we revisit the tire pressure thing again for the track for track?
Revisit.
Yeah. I mean, how low should we have the tire pressure on track day?
So the recommendation is always talk to the tire guy, right? Because there's always a tire guy at the track, and he's gonna look at the type of tire that you have, the type of bike you have, your pace, and then make a suggestion because all of that's gonna impact. Like when I first went to the track, I was running 32 because I was told that's like the standard to ride at the track. As I started increasing pace, and people saw like the tire wear, they said, "Oh, dude, you should drop like 1 or 2 pounds there for sure." right? And right now, I'm by no means expert on that. I'm way far from that. So every time I come out of the track, at the end of a track day, I'll snap pictures of my tires, both sides, front and back, and I'm gonna send to some friends who are really good at that, and they're able to tell me just by looking at the tires, they're able to tell me the track that you were riding at, it's very hard on right turns. So you stayed a lot more on the right than on the right than on the left. It looks like you may have a rebound setting that needs to be changed. You may be able to like drop 1 pound because of the way that the tire is wearing. And I, all right, dude, I'll just follow your advice. I don't understand. I've read a couple of articles about the science, but to me, it's still one of those things that, right? As soon as when I saw like I started reading the tire wear of my tire, and I kind of see, okay, I think I'm doing okay like this, but I always ask somebody else who actually knows about this stuff, right? One thing that I do know for sure, do not ride street tire pressures at the track. Everybody who does it goes down.
It's usually less, but depending on the tire and the bike and the temperature outside.
Yeah. Yeah, always drop it. But you know, in doubt, always ask the tire guy at the track.
Just on the gear you're talking about, what made a huge difference to me are earplugs.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Earplugs. I don't know if anybody's wearing them yet, but
Sure.
it makes a huge difference.
Yep.
It's like one less thing you have to focus on. It's the noise.
Thank you very much for bringing that up. It was another thing that I picked up at a group ride. One of the guys was wearing them, and he saw me not wearing it. He was like, dude, here, you had an extra pair. Do this. I'm like, what for? And then he explained. And yes, isolating yourself from like people breathing down your neck, and you cannot look behind. And also, for me, I can then start feeling the vibration of my own bike and sort of feel like, okay, it's time to upshift or downshift or whatever. You can actually feel it because you're isolating all that. So yeah, that's a great point.
For me, it's the air noise, the wind noise.
That too.
That too,
That really
yes.
gets me a lot. So you always wear my.
Usually,
Yeah.
what decibel ratings do you guys use for your earplugs? Like, I'm using like 27.
Whatever we get from RideSmart.
Is the phone with you because you just
Yeah, just like regular, just
Oh.
regular earplugs really work. I mean, no.
Yeah. I mean, so, yeah, I don't know anything about like 20 something. It's good enough to stop wind noise, like, making you deaf. But I was just,
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? If you want to preserve your hearing,
Yeah.
you definitely want to do that.
We provide it, so that's how important that we feel that you can, that it's free. So whenever you sign up, you'll see something. And if it's not there, just ask one of the instructors.
They're really good. The ones that we got from RideSmart, they're really good. I used to have some other ones that's like, oh, these are crap. The ones that they gave it, they're pretty good.
The only downside is that you cannot hear your exhaust. And when you're in high revs, you cannot hear that.
Yeah, but that's when you start feeling, right? You feel the engine right there. Man, you're on a, what do you guys call a crotch rocket, right? You are supposed to feel the vibration, all that power right there, right? And I relate to that because I also play instruments, guitar and stuff like that. And to me, like if somebody's playing the piano, like I go and I want to touch on the piano so that I can feel the vibration and I know what note is being played. It's the same thing with the bike. I can actually feel if I'm like going too high or too low on my RPMs. It's just a different thing that you can use in your favor instead of just relying on what you hear, right? You rely more on what you feel because if there are like 2 or 3 guys faster than you going by, you're not going to be hearing yourself anyways, but you can still feel your bike, right? But that, I mean, that, what am I to say?
That's
That's
a good point because riding a bike, especially on the track, is a lot about feeling it.
Yeah.
A lot of people worry about numbers and lean angle degrees and
Right.
this, that, but it's actually what you feel. It'll tell you. Your bike will talk to you.
Right.
So you just have to listen to it
Yeah.
through the feeling.
It's like the deep thing that people say, the bike and you should be one thing, right? It's an extension because the bike is going to react to how you are doing on it. Because the bike can ride on itself. I mean, if you let it go, it's going to go forever. But depending on your input on it, it's going to change the whole thing. So you have to be one with the bike. That's profound. Good? All right, awesome. So for the ones who have done already and are looking into, okay, what else can I do, right? Because when I came out of my first one, I was like, if I could do this every weekend, I would, because that would be awesome. But I can't, right? I cannot afford that. I have a family. I have a daily, regular job. What else can I do when I'm not at the track to improve my riding, or at least my preparation, so that when I'm at the track, I can actually focus on my riding, because I've already cleared my head from everything else. That's the other part of what I want to go over with these meetings. So planning out your track day, right? Unless you really just want to get some time off, from your family and, loud kids or whatever, and you want to go to the track and just ride around, without having anything to think about, you should have a plan. Like, think about, what do you want to practice? Do you want to practice visual skills, like learning how to, identify brake markers, turn-in markers, apexes, exit markers? Learn how to find those and then connect the dots, so that when you're at the track, you're not like looking everywhere. No, you look at your point, the one that you want to get to. Once you make sure that you can get to it, look to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. That is a huge exercise, and you're not going to be doing that across the entire lap on the entire track. No, you have to pick one corner. Pick one corner, 100 focus on that one thing. You are over that corner, relax a little bit, just enjoy the ride. When you're approaching that other corner, okay, focus, right? So think about what kind of plan you have. Whether it's and these are like the three most important that people mention. Visual skill, probably the most important. You have to know where you're going and how you figure your way around that. Throttle control, right? You're usually like on a 600 on a liter bike. Anything you do there, the bike's gonna either jump or make you go like, you want to kiss the ground or something like that. So you have to be very smooth, is what everybody say. Go smooth, very smooth. Steering, right? How do you steer your bike to make it turn and go where you want it to go? How do you make corrections? If you think that you're going to hit the apex, but now you see you're going wide, what do you have to do to actually make sure that you hit that apex? Things like that. So think about it. Don't try and say, okay, I'm going to do this 12 things. No. Pick like 1, 2, 3 things at the most. Focus on those things. Think about, like, at every session, you can think, okay, on a regular track day, you have about like 6, 7 sessions. Plan out. On the first session, I'm going to do this. The second session, I'm going to do this. The third session, I'm going to do this. Always go with a purpose, right? Oh yeah, learning at the track. How do you get to actually learn when you are at the track while you're still riding? Keep your plans with you at all times. Anybody who sees me at the track will see me with a little notebook like this every place I go. When I'm at the paddock, I have this with me. When I go to the class, I go with this with me. Because then I write out my plans. We were talking about 1.3 crescent. It's right here, right? So I draw the track. I put whether it's the number of each turn or the name of each turn, because that was the thing that I screwed up the first time for my first track day. I didn't know the number of the turns or the name of the turns. So I was lost. So I write that down. I write session 1. This is what I'm going to be doing. Here, I'm on the end of the other one. Session 7, my observations, the things that I wanted to do and the things that I did, right? So I execute my plan and I take notes. So before going out to the track, I look, okay, session 2, that's what I said I was going to be practicing. I go out with that fresh in my mind. I come out of the track, I pick this up, head back to class. As everybody is getting back to class, I'm there taking notes. If I have an instructor working with me, the instructor will give me feedback. I'll be writing down the feedback, right? Because if the instructor has a camera, I'm going to get the video. The instructor is going to be pointing out things on the video. I'm going to sort of remember or think about it as I'm there. But at the track, things go fast. I may forget 2 days later. Well, if I wrote down, I have, what I wrote down plus the video. and then my memory from what the instructor gave me as feedback. And I can think over that so that the next time out at the track, I have all of that to go by. Like, okay, what did I do better this time? What did I hear as, you should be thinking about how you're positioning yourself on the bike, lower body, upper body. If you don't do that, you will forget. I don't know about you guys, but, once we're out of the track, you're back into real life, right? So it's easy to forget the important things. So, and 14 track days later, I'm yet to see anybody else do this. I've never seen it. Right? I mentioned last month, there was one time in Crescent, one of the instructors, he came out of classroom, he saw me like taking notes, and he stopped and said, wow, a real student, finally. Right? And really, 14 track days later, I don't see anybody else doing that. So like I said, I draw turns, I put names of the turns, I write, like for instance, better line through the bus stop so I can peg out of it. Because watching my videos, I noticed that I was not, pointing in the right direction coming out of this thing. So I have to, make a tighter line here to be able to actually, drive up faster on that back straight there through the sweeper. Right, so I have a bunch of notes like that. And then later, the week after, I have a little note with, it's a debrief, where I write down what was the date, what was the track, what level was I riding with, what was the temperature, like how many degrees were outside, what tire pressure was I running, cold tire pressure, hot tire pressure. I write all those down, right? Because then, like I said, I have pictures of my tires. I attach those pictures here so I can cross-check. Okay, that was the temperature, that's what I was getting, cold and hot tire pressures. This is what the tires look like. Because when I ask help from somebody else, I have all this data that I can provide the specialist, and they will say, oh, okay, given all of these variants, okay, do this or do that or try this or try that. Right? I have information to actually go by. All the notes that I have on that thing, I digitalize them, put them on my notes. I add more stuff to it as I go through the videos, because then I watch the videos. On each session, I write, what was the session? Oh, that one was round robin. Who was the instructor leading? Oh, that time around was Doug. And then where did I have my camera mounted? Because I keep rotating my bike camera on different things depending on what do I want to analyze out of that footage. And then I write stuff down. Later, I will watch all of that footage, and then I'm going to write more details here. Cross-checking the notes that I have here, the video footage, the stuff that I got from the instructors, I write that all in here. And then depending on the things that I learned from this, that's how I'm going to draw my plans for the next track day, right? So while it's not the same thing as actually being on the track riding, which is awesome, this is the next better thing, right? Because as I'm doing this, I can sort of feel as if I were there, right? Because I'm remembering, oh yeah, the instructor said your right foot is not quite well. And then I start thinking, oh, okay, you're reliving that experience, right? So you're conditioning your mind, and then next time around, you've been thinking about it. You've been trying to reproduce that with yourself, within yourself. When you're out there, it's a lot easier, right? You start internalizing those things. So again, I picked up this from a book, which I'm going to mention in a little bit, and it's been working really well. Working with instructors, always work with different instructors, because they're all pretty good and they all have different styles of teaching and of giving you the critique, and they're gonna find stuff like different stuff. Like for instance, when I was working with Randy, he would point out one thing, and then I would work with Quan, he would point out a different thing that Randy didn't pick up the first time around, or maybe I was not doing the first time around. I don't know. Right? So work with different people, because you're going to get, a variety of tips that you can use. Take more notes as you talk with the instructors. Get the bike cam footage from the instructors whenever available. If they do have a camera, they are running a camera. I always have a USB drive. I always carry mine on my leathers. It's always there because as I come out of the track, here. I mean, we barely make it back to the classroom. I tell the instructor, hey, get me a copy, right? Because I will review that, I will make edits, and then I'll see things like this. For instance, this is footage from my own camera when it's set on the tail, right? And I'm looking at this, I can already read a couple of things, right? My own self-analysis. I am hanging off to the right side of the bike, right? My butt is off the bike, that's good. My lower body is down, I'm looking, ahead, good, great. Man, I'm really leaned over here. Man, that's some mean lean, right? That is pretty awesome. That's how I saw this. And then I look at the instructor's camera. Not so much. Right? So I just synchronized the two videos, right? And this is exactly the same spot. So if I was only going by this, I'm thinking, dang, I'm really leaning on it, right? And then this tells me, oh yeah, like the body position is pretty decent here, right? Good. But man, you can lean a lot further, right? A lot further. Where when I was there doing that, my thinking was, dang, that's pretty close to the ground. Holy cow, I don't think I can actually go farther than this, right? That's, and like at this point on Coda, you're going fast, right? And it's like, man, this is pretty awesome, dude. Then I look at this like, okay, I can actually safer by looking at this, even though the instructor who came before, behind me on this, he said, you can lean more. I'm like, I'm not so sure, man. I don't trust you. But then looking at this like, yeah, dumbass, you can definitely go. My point of contention there was at Coda, turn 7, I scraped my peg there because it's slightly off camber, and then I'm leaning. It didn't feel like I was leaning this much, but still, that didn't feel nice, right? And then as I'm going through this turn, I'm thinking I'm gonna encounter the same thing. So my mind is like, don't go, don't, But oh yeah, on that corner, I can actually go. So use all of that in your favor. If it's available to you, just use it, right? Use it as something that's gonna make you go safer and then become faster. Not go faster, become faster, because you have this safety net.
How far away from the X you are?
Oh yeah, then there's that too, right? Yeah.
It's terrible. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, right? That was...
See where the instructor is?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this was Randy, right? And Randy always says, look how close I got.
He rated them up.
Yeah, exactly. Right, but yes, stuff like that too, right? Because if I'm looking at this footage, I don't see this. So look, there's not a problem with my line, right? I'm not off the track, so I'm pretty good, right? But no, this tells me, oh, dude, yeah, you're way off, right? So I did get better then after that one.
I know you did.
Yeah? Okay, good. Right, but yeah, use everything to your advantage. When you're not at the track, what else can you do? Get one of these, right? That was one question that I had to some folks, like, okay, how can I practice when I'm back home, right? Can I get on the bike and practice body position? Oh yeah, dude, get one of these things, one of these tents. This specific one, I can put my bike on it without help, right? You don't need anybody else helping you putting the bike there. I can do this by myself. That's why I got this one. So I do that. I go to the garage. I put my iPad there with videos from other riders. And that's how I learn a track. That's how I practice. Because that way, I get in the position. I'm getting the workout on my legs. Because when you do that for like 30 minutes, sitting there in that position, and just making some movements like that, you feel it, right? You really feel it. So I do that. Oh, now it goes left. Now it goes right. Right? That's the line. Good. I'm practicing, and then once the video is done, I start practicing, sliding my butt off, not using my arms, making sure that I can move about my bike without putting input on the bars. Right? Great. Not the same thing as going, 100 miles an hour on the bike, but it gets your muscle memory going so that when you're actually doing that, you've already practiced it. right? You can do it. So that's been helping a lot. Also, another exercise that I do that I also picked up from a book mentioning the late Nicky Hayden, that he used to get on a bike just like this, a 600 FRI, sit on it, and for like an hour or so, just keep pressing against the tank just to build this muscle so that when he was leaning over, man, he was really strong on the legs. And holy crap, you do that for 30 minutes, my legs are burning. Burning. It's freaking awesome, right? So I do that quite often. I use video games to learn a track whenever it's available, of course. Unfortunately, there's no MSRH on any video game that I know, but Coda, yes. So I use it to like see the track from another angle, right? The back straight, turn 12 and then through everything here and all that stuff because it looks very close to what the real thing is. And then I play the video game because it forces me to go, okay, this one goes right, that one goes left, straight, left, right. First time I went to Coda, it felt like I was there before, right? The first instructor that I worked with, like right on my first free session, he was like, it seems like you've been here already before because you're, pretty much on the line, you have to straighten things here and there, but you didn't go like completely nuts. It was because of this. It actually felt from video game and video from other riders, I knew how the track actually went. So my mind was in that mode. So that was pretty good. So use everything that's at your disposal. Videos from instructors, of course, I've already mentioned that. I do use my videos to, I do go through the exercise of actually editing. And if I do have like my own video from my own camera and from an instructor, I will do like this kind of editing to see the two. When I have at the same track, I will do like a side-by-side comparison. Like on my side, I have one from Coda, like the first time I was at Coda and the second time when I shaved like 17 seconds from one track day to another. And then I put a comparison to see, okay, where was it that I did a lot better? And then I can, here, much better here. Right? Stuff like that, just, it's another way to learn. Let's see. So as I briefly mentioned last time, use your photos not to just show other people how cool you look, but to learn from it, right? So I did this where I'm looking at my very first track day, the one before last, or like this was the first, it was the third at this track, right? So I can see like where my head is on each one, where my upper body is, or like here, right? Same thing. On this one, look at my foot here, look at my foot here. I've learned to pull it back a little more, right? Then I keep going, like on this one. Compare this one to this one, right? Where my knee is pointed, how my arms look here. Same thing here, right? I use this to learn and see where I'm improving, where I do still need to improve. Look at the difference here. The same spot, like here I'm just cruising around, like I'm on the street, right? On a Sunday morning. Here I'm more like committed. Okay, that's where I'm going, and I'm gonna make it, make it work, right? Same thing here. You see, like, okay, this is like the line my head should be around here. It's actually on the other side of the thing. Now here, doing a lot better, right? Good to draw that kind of comparison. Same thing here. Okay, the difference here, the difference here, right? It's noticeable. Same thing with the foot. I keep looking at that to see, okay, where's my foot? Because still, after 25 years of street riding, even from 3 weeks ago, there is like duck feet in a couple of turns because I still have to think about it. It's not something that comes for free for me, right? Same thing here. Now look where my foot is here, where it is here. So it's not that I don't know about it. It's just that muscle memory. We'll try to do the old way. So I look at this and say, okay, I need to work on that. I think this is like my favorite one from my first one. And this was at Coda, I think it was my 5th track day. But then doing a lot better. Like my body is really hanging off the other side of the bike. My head is, like kissing the imaginary mirror. That's what you have to look for. If there was a mirror there, you're trying to kiss that mirror, right? That kind of stuff. Because for many track days, the main feedback that I would get from the instructors was that you have to lower your head. Now you're moving your butt off the seat, but your head is still way up here. You have to commit to the inside of the turn. Like, okay, it seems like I'm doing that. But then I would see the photos, like, yeah, I was not doing that at all. It felt like, but I was not. Compare your pictures, your body position with the instructor coming behind you. Because look at me here, look at Clint coming right behind me. It's like, oh, holy crap, that's a whole lot different. There's a lot of work to do there. So you do that, later, like this was from the last track day 3 weeks ago, then it's kind of cool, right? Because on the first one, I was completely off compared to the instructor. The very last one, look, it's almost like we're riding a three-wheel bike, right? And I mean, like the angles of the knees and everything. I was like, okay, this is actually pretty good. This shows me that I am improving finally, right? I am doing a lot better. So compare the photos, against yourself. Compare it with the instructor coming behind you. Compare it with the other riders at the track. There are riders more experienced within your level. There always is. Compare it against the other riders. I tend to do that and see how I'm doing compared to them. Like I can show you here, right? Still have a little bit, ways to go here, but I'm almost there, man. I'm almost there. Other resources that I've used that helped me a lot. Twist of the wrist, Keith Code. If you're riding sport bikes and you haven't heard of this man, you've been living under a rock, right? This guy knows the stuff. There are 2 books, Twist of the Wrist, Volume 1 and 2. I got them both. I read cover to cover, took notes, learned a lot from it, all these note-taking stuff. And besides the book, there are also videos, like 1-hour documentaries that I also have. There's like an iPhone app, or you can get, the DVDs or whatever. Watch it, and then watch it again, and then watch it one more time, and then go to the track, and then go back and watch again. Because you're always going to pick on something that you didn't pick on the time before. People say, oh, but those videos are cheesy. Yes, they are. Screw it. The content is good. Okay, it's really good. I've learned a lot from those 2 books. Also this one, pretty good. That's where I've read about the Nikki Hayden thing, sitting on the bike and doing that kind of exercise. And I had figured out that I can apply my meditation techniques to my riding. And on this book, the guy actually mentioned something about that, which I thought was cool. It's like it's something that I figured that I could do. And then I read on a book, somebody talking about, how you can get your mind in tune with what you're going to be doing. I picked up from that book.
Yeah, that's a really good book.
Yep. It's pretty nice. The guy who recommended it to me was a former CMRA racer too. So yeah, dude, pick up that book. It's pretty good. Also use this. You go to the website. It's Life at Lean. It was at the beginning of the thing. There's a bunch of free PDFs that you can download, like short PDFs about like braking structure, the main things that you should know about track riding. There's a number of things that he publishes. He has a bunch of short YouTube videos with a lot of great content. Check it out. He also has like a member-only content, which I have been signing up for almost a year now. I get a lot of great feedback from that. Talking with him, he's a great guy and spot on critique of your videos and the questions that you have. Really good stuff. And I think that's it. Wrapping up for the day. So do everything you can off track so that when you're at the track, you're 100% focused on your riding and you can enjoy it the most. What's up next? We're going to be talking more about using video footage, how, I'm going to show you more of the notes that I take, how I organize that so they can easily look that up and use that stuff. How can you improve your focus when you're doing planning your day and doing your thing and then coming out. And there's a bunch of stuff I would like to talk about this, and I'm going to be doing it. If you have like specific feedback they would like for us to apply here, just leave it, leave a note there on the meetup site, or if you want to talk to me afterwards here, it's fine. This is just the second meeting. I intend on doing this all year long. I've got the room booked every third Wednesday of every month, right? So we'll keep on doing that. I'm pretty sure there's still stuff that I've learned so far that I can spend, like 3 or 4 more meetings going over that. By then, I'm gonna have learned more stuff because I'm gonna be doing at least 1 track day a month. That's my plan. And also, eventually, I'm gonna start inviting people that I know, like Ryan knows a lot more stuff that I haven't even touched yet. And maybe, we can discuss, okay, what are some topics you think people could, benefit from? So I'm gonna be opening for, more people to share, which I think is cool. And that's it. Enjoy your next or first track day. Let me know if you have any question, and make sure to join us next month.